Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening to Tesla stock, what we can expect moving forward and all of that good stuff. So as per usual, ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed, please don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, updates, all that kind of stuff, I do share my thoughts and posts and thoughts really with my members every single day. The market is trading as it's trading, of course, in my YouTube membership down below. Of course, mainly focusing on Tesla stock on the first tier. Sometimes I'll share other stocks in the first tier, of course, for $3 a month, or for the second tier, you get access to everything in the first tier, plus NVIDIA daily updates if you're interested. But jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down, unfortunately, 1.7%, closing at $354.50 per share as we continue going sideways in this 350s region. But there's obviously good news and bad news as per usual. So again, if you enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. And just in case I didn't say it, I'm not a financial advisor. Now, moving into it, I want to start off with, let's go remove this one for now and go to, we'll start with the 1 hour chart for now. The 1 hour chart, I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit messy, right? I won't lie, the 1 hour chart is a little bit on the more messy side, but it is arguably coming back down to retest this little wedge. Remember we had this wedge that we were in that I talked about that we kind of broke out of, right? Remember this one? We had this little wedge, kind of went sideways a bit, and then we had that breakout. You remember that? Well, we kind of came back and more or less retested that bit of a wedge breakout today. I'm not gonna lie though, it's not the cleanest retest. Yeah, I would have liked to see a bit of a cleaner retest. I wanted to see a nice pop sooner as well. We didn't get that, so it's a little bit iffy. I'm gonna be completely honest with you, and there are some risks of a potential head and shoulders pattern setting up here like this, right? We have a potential risk of that setting up, so let's see how that actually plays out. But usually what I do is whenever the smaller time frames, like in this case the 1 hour, are less, I don't know, clean, I guess you can say, right? They're not as, it's a little bit confusing in a way, right? I like to go to the 4 hour. The 4 hour chart, or something longer at the very least, can eliminate noise, right? It's a little bit more cleaner. And what do we see on the 4 hour chart? Well, the 4 hour chart, we're still dancing around this market bias, right? As long as we continue dancing around it, ideally slightly above it, obviously over time, this thing will slowly turn from red to green. And that's kind of the ideal scenario. And on the 4 hour, it shows a bit of a cleaner retest of this potential little wedge breakout that we had today, that we had, I think it was yesterday, and now we're retesting it today, right? It looks a little bit more on the kind of, cleaner side, if you will, which is good. So again, we're not fully out of the woodworks yet, but pretty much the way Tesla looks to me right now moving forward is, I won't lie, the fact that we're having issues closing above 362, 363 roughly does stall out this move to the upside closer to the 370s themselves. Like we got pretty close yesterday, but I still want to see closer to 370s. And honestly, I want to still see it fully revert back to the mean. Ideally, the sooner the better. The reason I say sooner the better is because if we, let's say, just continue going sideways right here, right? This reversion to the mean, of course, will slowly come down to us, and it'll essentially start meeting us maybe in the middle, or eventually maybe even come down into the 350s as, assuming we continue going sideways. And that mean reversion will essentially occur without us going up into it. So it will be a little bit less, I don't know, exciting, I guess you can say, for the bulls, right? It'll be, less rewarding, I guess, for the bulls is the better way to put it, right? So that's something, that, we should watch out for. But the simple way of looking at Tesla moving forward is going to be these two horizontal levels right over here, right? Plain and simple. The resistance, of course, the one that we're just, we broke past yesterday, but the one we just cannot seem to close above is going to be the high of these two candles over here, which again is going to be sitting at about 362, 363, something like that. We want to see a daily closure above that range, not just a breakout like we had yesterday. This is why closures are important. We want a closure. We want a closure above that level. On the flip side, we are holding this kind of 347, 348-ish, of course, level as support now. Why is that important? Because if I go to the 4 hour instead, you can see back here, for instance, on the left, it acted as a major resistance many times over, this kind of 347, 348-ish level, right? Many times it acted as a resistance, and a bit of a support over here too. You can see acted as a resistance on that massive breakdown we had until we finally broke above it. And now for the pretty much this week, really, this whole area has been acting as an obvious support, which is good. So we want to maintain that, right? The way it looks is this: the bulls want to break above this level here, 362, 363, and they want to hold this kind of 347, 348-ish, of course, range of support. Plain and simple. Obviously, break above one, you go to the other side, and you know, you already know the upside targets, right? Break above 362, 363, we go up to the 370s, potentially even peeking our head into closer to the 380s. However, breaking below 347-ish, 348-ish should lead us, unfortunately, back down, which, you know, can potentially bring us all the way back down closer to 330 roughly, which would be essentially a double bottom potential, which would be pretty, you know, pretty good. That would be a drop of about, unfortunately, about another 6-7% from here, though. That would be a little bit on the more painful side, but that can potentially start to set up what would be a double bottom type setup, and then from there we can potentially bounce. Of course, this is the first option. The second option, and technically, you know, a valid option as long as you remain inside this downward channel. This is kind of the worst case scenario, would be all the way back down to about the 280s to $300 per share, which would be closer to the bottom of the potential downward channel that we are in, which will also coincide with this larger red line kind of support over here. You can see that it has bounced off of us more or less, you know, 3 times now, and this would be essentially coinciding together with it pretty much right around here, around $280 per share. That is unfortunately a possibility, right? That is a possibility. I don't think we'll go there just yet. I still personally favor one more pop to the upside before we see that. I do want to see it retest these levels properly. This like breakdown that we had over here, I want to see a proper retest of this level, personally speaking. But honestly, if we ever lose 347, that does start putting some, you know, bearishness back into the stock. Again, at the very least, back down to about, you know, the 330s, we'll say, potentially peeking your head into the 320s, with the worst case scenario being all the way back down here, which would be substantially more painful, of course. That would be another move of about almost 20%, which again, I just don't see that happening too like randomly. I feel like something would have to happen, some catalyst or something, right? Other reasons why I don't think that's going to happen personally, I mean, again, it could be wrong, but again, watch for the levels, is going to be the fact that the MACD, right? The MACD. So despite us kind of going sideways and even having a red day today of, you know, almost 2%, which is, you know, a fair amount, we'll say, the MACD, you can see, has just been slowly grinding higher and slowly curling further and further and further, which is a good sign. The daily stochastic has already crossed bullish and back into, you know, being away from the oversold territories, which is, you know, arguably, you know, potentially a bit of a divergence setting up there. Nothing crazy, but it's still good news, of course. So again, ultimately, probably the most 2 important levels right now for Tesla is about that 362, 363 and about that 347, 348. Once one of those will crack, once one of those cracks, expect a continuation in that respective direction that I just mentioned. And yeah, I mean, that's really all she wrote. Obviously, the ultimate bullish case is the fact that we do come up over here, potentially come back down one more time to get a retest of that 363 area and then break out. And that'll be like the true bull case scenario, right? But again, nobody knows which one is going to play out. We want to just, of course, let this sort of ride out right now. If we can break out of this downward channel, and if we essentially break above, honestly, even 380, in my opinion, is pretty good. This should, at least for quite a while, you know, potentially even for a few months, should lock in this area as the bottom. And we should, like, there's a high chance, in my opinion, with that break, that we do not go below this level for quite some time, right? It would, if we ever do, of course, in the future, in my opinion, it would take probably at least a few months, if not longer, if we break above pretty much $380 per share. That's probably the most important level to break out of for the bulls. So again, let's see what happens. Those are the main levels to watch for. Again, you know, the thing with trading and, you know, technical analysis, it's not necessarily about predicting the market. It's about understanding the levels and understanding what it unlocks on a break of above or below those levels, right? And that's pretty much what that story sort of, you know, what the picture paints at the moment, at least for me. But again, I do want to point out the fact that the weekly is still looking pretty okay. Obviously, the MACD and the stochastic are both still bearish, which is why, again, remember back here, I kept mentioning how, you know, everyone back here was expecting Tesla to just suddenly go sideways for a tiny bit and rocket back up to 500. Remember how I was saying I don't think that's going to happen? I still don't think that's going to happen. I still don't think we're going to 500 that quickly. I think even if we break above 480, did I say 480? So I meant 380. It'll still take time. Like, we'll go up here, then we'll come down. You know, we're still going to take time and zigzag, etc. And I still think it'll take months before we make our way to the 500s, assuming we break out of this, of course, 380-ish region. So just keep that in mind. You know, don't unless some major catalyst comes out. Like, I don't see it happening still. Like, I think it'll take longer than people expect. But the reason I'm bringing up the weekly chart here, and we'll see how it closes tomorrow, is the fact that I still like the fact that we're roughly holding around this market bias, and the RSI is towards the lower end of the spectrum on the oversold territories, which I do like as well. So yeah, those are the signs that I do like to see. It's pretty often a stock that gets this, you know, nice parabolic move. Oops, what the hell? It's pretty often, not always, of course, nothing's perfect, but it is often enough that, when a stock does get this kind of parabolic move, it comes back down to the mean essentially, and at the very least gets one more pop, not necessarily to all-time highs, but at the very least a pop to the upside, a decent one as well. It's more often than not that does happen. So I'm assuming that's the case, and that's going to be the case here, but regardless, you have those levels to watch out for anyways. So yeah, that's all I got for you. Let's take a quick look at options flow. See what's happening with Tesla stock on the options flow. Nice little call flow towards the end of the day. I like to see that. But overall, pretty mixed throughout the day. Pretty light day on the options flow as well. Nothing too crazy. Definitely not as much as sometimes, we do see on Tesla stock. So pretty mixed around the board. I wouldn't say anything completely stands out. I mean, we have a July 18th 470 call come in for 1.6 million. Hey, that's pretty good. But it's got a lot of time. It does have a lot of time, right? Going over to the options confirmed flow. Tesla stock is somehow in the confirmed 80 million. So I don't know. It's a bit contradictory, I'll be completely honest with you, sometimes these two. So I'm not really sure which one to believe. But again, ultimately, it comes down to the levels. So let's watch for those levels, watch for those holds, breaks, etc. And that should suggest continuation in that respective direction. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.